Can I not marry? Audio web novel chapter 64. I want to return to my parents' home. Opening their front door, Mama, who had just came out of the kitchen, was shocked to discover her daughter standing in front their entrance. Cece, how come you didn't even say a word and returned home? Lacey didn't know how to explain the situation to her mom. She couldn't tell her mom that she ran away from home and returned to her mother's home voluntarily, right? She pondered for a moment, and decided with the excuse, I haven't been home in a long time, so I just wanted to come back to see you. This excuse sounded too far-fetched. Very soon Mama saw through the loopholes. Her daughter's complexion was pale, her expression appeared gaunt, her eyes looked swollen, while her speech were preoccupied by some troubles. With her years of experience as a wife, needless to say, her daughter must have quarreled with her husband. Upon thinking of her daughter who lacks brain root of reinforcements, and does things dazedly, unexpectedly she would have such courage to rebut her president husband, also very naturally and unrestrained returning to their home, Mama hearts developed a sense of excitement. Really worthy of being her, Tian Zhang's daughter. So domineering. Originally before returning, Lacey was worried upon returning her mom would pestered her continuously, however she did not expect upon seeing her, not only did she, Mama, not show any worries, she also exposed a strange smile. Lacey didn't know why, but she suddenly felt a kind of ominous sense of foreboding. Mom, what is that smell? Lacey suddenly detected a burning smell. Oh, my fish. Mama, who was deceitfully smiling, yelped out a cry after regaining her senses. She rushed back to the kitchen, leaving Lacey at the door with black lines running down her face. Really worthy of being her own mother, reaction is just as slow as hers. Lacey reluctantly shook her head, whilst taking off her shoes by the door. Because she didn't sleep well last night, plus taking the morning train, she currently had little strength left. She heavily slumped to the sofa by the door, completely without taking into account the differences between her parental home's wooden sofa and the luxurious leather sofa back at the mansion. With a bang, her ass busted open like a flower. Ouch! She cried out loudly, feeling the pain in her ass as she gritted her teeth. However, because of this as a pain she gathered up her spirits, she was no longer sleepy, her weariness also reduced. Sitting on the sofa, Lacey began to stare at her home's furnishings in a daze. Her parental's home is indeed old, even the vase's position did not change, it gave off an unspeakable cordial vibe. Lacey looked at her surrounding and suddenly remembered she haven't been back to her parental's home for more than 3 months. Now that she has returned she felt that the issue was more complicated than it seems, however she also didn't have the energy to think further. And secondly, based on the president's possessive desire, several times he even insisted on returning to her paternal home with her. She was afraid and wanted to avoid confrontation, so she thought if she didn't need to return home parental then she would avoid it as much as possible. Thinking to this point, naturally she also thought of Lian Jun. Unavoidably her heart felt a sense of loneliness. Last night, she laid in bed for a long time before she finally decided to return to her parental home. She knew that these contradictions were not only based in the matter that happened at the employee meeting at the company, the greater problem were themselves. Before they met, they were two people from completely different worlds, their life, work, social circle, even values were very different. In the past she always thought that after two people interacted for a long time, they will slowly get used to each other. However, until yesterday did she only discover that the longer they interacted, it will only expose more and more contradictions between them. Their marriage came too suddenly. To tell you the truth, from the beginning to the end she still didn't come to understand this man's true inner thoughts, his views on family, his views on love, his past, his present and his future. Besides what he was willing to tell her, the rest Lacey was completely clueless. He always like a god from above, controlling everything around them, he never stopped to consider her ideas. This man doesn't understand. A woman like her didn't need her man to walk in front of her, she needed a man who was willing to stop and wait for her, walk beside her like a companion. Perhaps in Lian Jun's eyes, she was not smart enough, some even may say she's silly, however on the stage of love, a woman's sensitivity is far greater than a man's, their intuition may be too impulsive, however it is their true thoughts and feelings. After one night of thinking, Lacey was determined, they all needed to be calm and think about the true value of their marriage. She's not an intelligent woman, but regarding love, she is never one to wading in mud and water. So she got up early the next morning and left a note before leaving. She considered for a long time before writing down the words, I'm returning to my parents for a few days to cool down, when I have thought things through I shall return. Don't come and find me. Lacey thought about the issue a lot, however she didn't take into account that one person can never resolve the contradictions between two people. If they did not express their ideas and thoughts, how will they solve their contradictions? So, during her 3-day stay in her parents' home, in addition to turning herself into a scornful woman, she couldn't come up with a solution to their crises. Finally, even Du Papa, who didn't like meddling in his child's family matters, found it unbearable. My wife, it's not right for our daughter to continue like this. Du Tianxiang, who was busy watching a Hong Kong drama, impatiently glared at her husband. What's wrong with it? I think it quite right. No, it's not right. She been home for 3 days already, yet our son-in-law has not come for her. These two, could a major problem have occurred? Du Tianxiang fixed her glazes at the television screen. Casually she asked a sentence. What major problem could occurred? Du Papa pondered for a moment and said, for example, a third party. My husband, do you think you're watching a TV drama? Where in the world would there be so many mistresses? Du Tianxiang smiled. Du Papa, my wife, you've met a good husband. It does not mean that your daughter will encounter a good husband, all right. You see our son-in-law, he has money, power and appearance, it's very normal for him to veer off path. That could also happen. Du Tianxiang nodded. You didn't have the money, power nor looks, naturally you couldn't veer off path. Du Papa's mouth twitched upon hearing this. Okay, La, I was joking with you. Du Tianxiang recovered a smile. Her facial expression suddenly became serious. Cici is my daughter. I know what kind of person she is. She absolutely will not let herself suffer by accepting a man who doesn't love her. So if Ah Jun is really that kind of person, then it's not a pity if they separate. If he's not that kind of person, even if Cici is temporarily confused, I believe based on Ah Jun's personality, he will not so easily let her go. Yes, even though you say it like this, but I still dread our daughter tormenting herself further. She will ruin her health. This you should rest assured. You look at when your daughter was studying mathematics during school, wasn't she also hiding in her room for 3 entire days? Based on her temper, it can only be maintained for 3 days. Du Papa was suddenly enlightened. My wife, I just discovered the things you say makes a lot of sense. Of course. What kind of person Du Tianxiang is? If I had been born a few hundred years earlier, Commander Mu Guiying's position would have been mine. Poof. Dad Papa sprayed out his saliva. Wife, how can you be Mu Guiying? Clearly you're Wu Zetian. Greater than, blank. Du Tianxiang really understand her own daughter. Sure enough, that night, Du Lacey was lying in her little bed. She suddenly came to her sense while staring at the ceiling. Oh my God. What is she so entangled about? How could the president be so free and easy? Not a single phone call within these 3 days, yet here she was complaining like a tortoise, physically and mentally abusing herself. The legs of the toads were hard to find. Could a two-legged man is also hard to come by? Why must women tyrannize themselves? Oh, that's right. Time to eat dinner. So, Du Lacey the tortoise has become a ninja turtle. She was alive and kicking, defeating small monsters. After Du Lacey figured out what to do, her head no longer ached, her waist was no longer sore. In one breath she ate 2 bowls of rice. Therefore Du Mama was particularly pleased. Good daughter, she's indeed fertile. So like this a few days passed. Lien Jun still was nowhere to be seen, and not even a phone call was received. Du Lacey's heart could not help but feel somewhat depressed. After dinner that night, she took out her cell phone and stared blankly at it. Although in her note she stated that the president should not come looking for her, however did he have to follow her instructions to the T, right? After all, she is a girl, she couldn't return to him, that's too unpretentiousness. Surely it doesn't mean that. Du Lacey's head suddenly flashed the scene of their Cold War, Lien Jun and his beautiful secretary talking and laughing as they walked past the reception area. Her nerves were suddenly alerted. Could it be, without her this red flag at home, many colored flags have started to float around the president. He was indulged in pleasure and forget to return home. As she was making blind and disorderly conjectures, her cell phone suddenly rang. Du Lacey stared at the phone in a daze before quickly answered the phone without even looking the ID caller's name on the screen. Hello. Hello. Unfortunately, it was a woman's voice, a hoarse voice, with a very heavy twang. It can't be one of those colored flags, looking for her the red flag, right? Du Lacey was little nervous before asking with caution, who are you? It was me, Alice. An energetic voice intermittent through, as if that person have cried for a long time. Her tone was slightly modified, but Du Lacey finally recognized it was Huo Yuji. Do you have time? Come out and accompany me. Huo Yuji said. Du Lacey was in a daze before hesitatingly replied, yes, I'm free. I will be at 5th Streets, Echo, waiting for you, quickly come. Hoo. Du Lacey developed goosebumps upon hearing her cries. You wait there, I'll come right away. After she said this, she picked up her outer coat ready to head out. Cici, it's so late, where are you going? Du Mama asked. My friend asked me to go to the bar, Du Lacey replied. Go to the bar at night? It's not safe, right? It's okay, my friend is waiting for me to save her, so I'm leaving. After saying this, she put on her shoes and rushed out of the house. Oh, wait a minute. Which bar? Du Mama shouted at the door. A far response sounded. Echo. 5th Streets. Echo is a relatively well-known bar in a city, although Du Lacey have never been, however it didn't take her much effort to find the place. She seldom go to such entertainment venues. Upon entering the place she felt a little bit nervous, however her nervousness vanished once she spotted Huo Yuji sitting in the corner like a pear blossom bathed in the rain. 1. Yuji, what's wrong? She hurriedly moved her way over. Alice, my second senior brother doesn't want me anymore. After saying this, she made a wah sound before crying. Second senior brother. Du Lacey thought for a long time before she could react. Huo Yuji's online, a beast in human clothing, friend she accompanied her to meet. What's the matter? Don't cry, slowly explain it to me. Du Lacey tried comforted her. Huo Yuji sniffed her nose, and intermittently told her the whole situation. So it turns out that this second senior brother's actual name is Lu Tianyang. His old father is an XX managing director. He was considered a child of high-ranking cadres. Originally after the two met, they both had very good impression of each other. Huo Yuji also felt that this man was mature and trustworthy. So only after a month of meeting, their relationship developed to the extent where their parents met. Their future could be described as very bright and promising. 2 days ago, the two officially started to live together. Huo Yuji's original nature is playful, however once she found Lu Tianyang didn't like much of her going out everywhere. She has convergence herself a lot. But she couldn't just completely cut off contact with her former friends just because of this. After receiving a few old friends' calls the previous evening, she went to the bar pulling an all-nighter. After returning, because of this incident, Lu Tianyang fired off at her, saying the two were unsuitable for each other. Upon hearing this, Huo Yuji left. After coming out, she did not dare to find her friends, she afraid she would bring disgrace to herself if they knew. She pondered for a moment before thinking of Du Lacey. Huo Yuji in front of her, really did not know how to be polite at all. Du Lacey felt somewhat frustrated, said, "What are you going to do?" After expressing all her words, Huo Yuji's mood calmed tremendously. Wiping dry the tears in her eyes, she said, "I don't know, anyway I will not to abandon my own lifestyle because of him. If he really cannot accept me being like Wei, then it can't help. He wants to break up, then break up." She sounded very firm, but her bitten lips exposed her unwillingness to give up. That moment, Du Lacey suddenly thought of herself. These days, she has not dared to face her own problems. If the president wasn't willing to change for her, then what should she do? Divorce. Just the thought of this word, her heart felt a tugging ache. At this time, Huo Yuji suddenly smacked the table. Huo Yuji lived more than 20 years, unexpectedly would be like this because of a man. I have lived in vain. Du Lacey thought her next sentence would have been, I may as well die. She hurriedly wanted to comfort her, however she didn't think Huo Yuji's words would make such a sharp turn. She resolutely said, I have decided, he doesn't like me going out and having fun. I'll do exactly that. He doesn't like me pulling an all-nighter outside. I'll pull an all-nighter for him to see. The person I married should be a husband, not a father. Why must I listen to his words? Alice, today we are not leaving until we're drunk. Waiter, please give me a box of beer, 2 bottles of wine, a bottle of, that's enough, enough. Du Lacey quickly interrupted her. This Huo Yuji is sufficiently crazy, a girl in a bar drinking so much wine, what if she gets drunk? Ghost knows what will happen. Du Lacey may be impulsive, but she always had a sense vigilance to guard her body. Abandoned by a man have been bad enough, why would you also want to spend our own money to getting drunk? What if you encounter bad guys while you're drunk? Then wouldn't you have lost your heart, money and body? That's simply too deficit. Although Du Lacey tried to stop Huo Yuji, however she still continued to consume a lot of wine. After drinking for a while her face began to redden. Why aren't you drinking? Drink Huo Yuji shouted at her. I am drinking, who are you trying to fool? A cup of wine you have put 5 cubes of ice in it, it has taken you half an hour yet you haven't finished it, you think I'm muddled because I'm drunk. Du Lacey didn't expect Huo Yuji to so keenly observe her actions. She was even clear how many ice cubes she had placed in her cup. Very good, very powerful. In fact, I'm not very good at drinking. She tried to explain. If you don't know how to drink, then you should drink more. Come, let's make a toast. Cheers. Du Lacey made a bitter expression as she tried to scull down the alcohol that has been sitting there for half an hour in one gulp. Sure enough, the alcohol have turned into pale white drinking water. Greater than, blank, let's go. Let's go dancing. Huo Yuji suddenly stood up. I don't know how to, the bar sound was too noisy. Even though Du Lacey refused, Huo Yuji have already pulled her onto the dance floor. A woman's strength is sure stronger after the consummation of alcohol. Du Lacey was pulled into the crowd. Immediately she couldn't differentiate where north was. Seeing the bodies of female and males moving to the fast-paced music, frantically twisting their body to the beat. Under the flashing lights they were like a group of epilepsy patients. Du Lacey ran out of tears. Cow. How is this dancing? Clearly they were performing a dance to the gods. Huo Yuji was obviously a frequent visitor here. Quickly she danced within the crowd, neatly twisting her waist and dancing to the rhythm. She was many times crazier than the group of epilepsy patients. She jumped up, casually taking off her jacket, revealing a leopard-printed halter neck top, paired with denim shorts. In the psychedelic lights she appeared particularly sexy. At any time, a beauty is always compelling, not to mention dressed sexy, a dancing sexual beauty. Soon, she caught many people's attention, some even whistled. Isn't this too high profile? Du Lacey wanted to pull her back, however Huo Yuji jumped on the steel pole of the circular table and began to dance in the middle of the table. Suddenly, the whole bar was boiling, continuous cheers were heard one after another. Du Lacey simply don't know what's her Huo Yuji addiction, she simply wanted to leave. However she was afraid something dangerous might happen to Huo Yuji as she has consumed too much alcohol, she can only helplessly stare at her with worries. At that moment, Huo Yuji who was dancing on the stage suddenly jumped down, twisting her way towards Du Lacey. Du Lacey wanted to escape, behind her were full of spectators. She had no way out, thus she could only helplessly watch Huo Yuji walk towards her. Huo Yuji enthusiastically pulled her hand, shouting, "Alice, let's dance together." She didn't have the chance to refuse when Huo Yuji have already pulled her to the middle of the stage. Heaven, earth I don't want to dance, I prefer being an epilepsy patient. Du Lacey has never been this distressed. This was 10,000 times more embarrassing than the time the president deceived her to go on stage during the staff meeting. Under the watchful eyes of those in the bar, she could only twist to the beat once or twice. She didn't expect everyone's to give her some face and enthusiastically cheering her on. Forget it, she has nothing to lose, later she'll just wear a face mask when she goes out to avoid being recognized. Hardening her heart, she began to dance with the music. In fact, it's not that Du Lacey didn't know how to dance. During college she even represented the class and participated in the dance contest. There were 20 girls in the class, however only 19 performance, since one girl broke her leg. Their performance scored them an award, even though the award was an encouragement one. Greater than, blank, actually dancing in the bar originally is to seek happiness. The atmosphere was great coupled by Huo Yuji assisting on the side. Du Lacey unexpectedly danced very well. The next song sounded out and they began to ecstasy twist again. At this time Du Lacey has been infected by the lively atmosphere, her moves were no longer stiff, her body also began to involuntarily with twist and turn to the music, she felt carefree. All the depressing mood she felt recently all been to released, she suddenly understood why so many people were obsessed with bars, because on the dance floor, one's identity, status, fame and fortune all does not exist, one only needs to remember the music, dance and themselves. After the fast rhythm music ended, the DJ on the stage moved his disc and suddenly the music became soft and slow. The originally macabre dance floor suddenly became a place for couples to cuddle together, swinging their bodies slowly. Du Lacey didn't have time to react, Huo Yuji have already squeezed her two chest balls onto her. Du Lacey almost sprayed out her saliva. Oh my god, they were both women, why is the difference so great? As she's feeling sorry for herself, suddenly an unknown handsome guy walked over, giving Huo Yuji a seductive look. Sensing the hint Huo Yuji immediately got rid of Du Lacey, following the handsome guy, leaving Du Lacey who was still immersed in choppy soft emotions. This woman, very good, very good. Miss, can I have a dance? A hand suddenly stretched out in front of her. Du Lacey was in a daze for a while before she discovered a handsome guy on the side. Prior her marriage, she thought no men wanted her, however she never thought that after her marriage she would be in such high demand. First there's Xiao Yin's love confession, now there's a handsome guy trying to hit on her. The speed of peach blossom propagation is hitting the ceiling. Du Lacey very exciting stretch out her hands, wanting to grab on the handsome guy's hand, however she was suddenly seized by another hand pulling her over. Du Lacey gave a soft cry before falling into a strong embrace. Immediately she recognized this familiar smell, it was like a net like entangled on her body, she all of a sudden felt a bust of suffocation. Him. It's him. Du Lacey did not dare to raise her head, she wanted to break free however he used his strength to hold her down, so she had no other choice but to close her eyes and pretend to be dead. He was in no hurry as he held onto to her, slowly swaying to the music. The two of them didn't look like a normal couple on the dance floor. Du Lacey hid herself in Lien Jun's embrace, not daring to look up, her face was flushed. The feeling she felt was like waiting to be drowned after being caught in an infidelity. Every minute every second felt very long, it was very difficult to endure. After a while, there was a slightly irreverent voice. I didn't expect you could dance, it was such an experience.